What if I told you that all those hours you've spent chasing the perfect idea, waiting for the inspiration to hit, are actually holding you back from your true creative potential? Sounds harsh, right? But here's the truth. The secret to breakthrough creativity isn't about waiting for that elusive moment of genius. It's about getting pragmatic. Yes, you heard me, pragmatism, not perfection. In this video, we're going to break down how embracing this no-nonsense, action-driven approach can completely transform the way you create. I know, it sounds too simple to be revolutionary, but trust me on this. Once you realize how powerful pragmatism is in creative pursuits, you'll never look at your process the same way again. Stick around, because I'm going to show you exactly how to turn your creative struggles into steady, focused progress, with real-world tools you can use starting today. This is the game changer you didn't know you needed. Keep watching and let's dive in. Number 1. The fail fast, win big philosophy. You know that feeling when you've been working on something for ages, pouring your heart and soul into it, only to realize it's just not working? And then you keep pushing, thinking, if I just give it a little more time, it'll magically click. We've all been there. It's like trying to revive a dying plant by overwatering it, hoping that somehow it'll spring back to life. Here's the thing, sometimes the bravest and smartest move you can make is to let go. And that's where the fail fast, win big philosophy comes in. Now, I know what you're thinking. Failing? That doesn't sound like a strategy. It sounds like a nightmare. But hear me out. Failing fast isn't about setting yourself up for failure. It's about freeing yourself from the fear of it. It's about embracing mistakes early so you can course correct and find the ideas that actually work. Think of it as speed dating your creative process. Instead of investing months or even years into a project you're unsure about, you try, test, tweak, and move on. It's not about giving up. It's about leveling up faster. Picture this. A few years ago, I was working on a video project that I thought was going to be my magnum opus. I had this grand vision of blending different editing techniques, visual effects, and storytelling into one seamless masterpiece. The problem? I spent weeks on the intro alone. By the time I showed it to a colleague, they hesitated before saying, "It's good, but maybe try something simpler." Ouch. My first instinct was to defend it, to cling to the work I'd already sunk so much time into. But instead, I scrapped it. Yes, the entire thing. And guess what? Starting fresh, with a tighter focus and a clearer direction, led to something infinitely better. The client loved it, and so did I. Why does this work? Because failing fast clears the clutter. It forces you to confront what's not working without wasting energy convincing yourself it eventually will. It's like cleaning out your closet. You might hate letting go of that jacket you haven't worn in 3 years, but once it's gone, you realize how much better everything fits without it taking up space. This philosophy isn't just about creativity. It's about reclaiming your mental bandwidth. When you allow yourself to fail quickly, you're giving yourself permission to learn and grow without the burden of perfection. And let's be honest, perfection is overrated. It's the messy drafts, the failed experiments, and the scrapped ideas that pave the way for the breakthroughs. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you're stuck on a project, instead of doubling down, ask yourself, what if I let this go? What if I tried something completely different? Sure, it's scary at first, but once you see the results, once you win big by failing fast, you'll wonder why you ever hesitated. Because at the end of the day, it's not about avoiding failure. It's about using it as a springboard to something better. And that, my friends, is where the magic happens. Number 2. Kill your darlings. Ruthless self-critique. Let's start with something bold. The things you love the most about your creative work might be the very things holding it back. I know that stings a little, doesn't it? But hear me out. We all have those parts of our projects that we're deeply attached to. The clever phrase, the perfect shot, the intricate detail we poured hours into. And yet, sometimes those darlings are exactly what needs to go. Why? Because the things we cling to the hardest can blind us to what the work truly needs. You know that moment when you're working on something and it feels just a little off? But instead of re-evaluating, you dig your heels in and convince yourself it's perfect. No way am I cutting that scene. It's brilliant, you tell yourself. We've all been there. The problem is, we often mistake attachment for quality. Just because you love something doesn't mean it's serving the greater good of your work. It's tough love, but sometimes you have to kill your darlings to make your creation shine. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't this a little extreme? Why would I throw away something I've worked so hard on? And I get it. Trust me, I do. A few months ago, I was editing a video that had this amazing montage. It had everything. Dramatic lighting, slow-mo shots, the perfect soundtrack. I was obsessed, but every time I watched the draft, something didn't sit right. After some feedback, I realized the montage, my baby, was dragging the pace and distracting from the story. Cutting it felt like a gut punch, but once it was gone, the video clicked. The narrative flowed better, and the impact was so much stronger. Here's why this works. When you let go of what's not working, even if you love it, you make room for what truly matters. Creativity thrives in clarity. By ruthlessly critiquing your own work, you strip away the fluff and get to the heart of what you're trying to say. It's not about being harsh on yourself. It's about being honest. Think of it like decluttering your closet. Sure, that neon jacket might bring back great memories, but if it doesn't fit or you haven't worn it in years, it's time to let it go. This isn't just about creativity, it's about self-respect. By practicing ruthless self-critique, you're saying, I care about my work enough to make it the best it can be, even if it's hard. And yes, it is hard, but it's also empowering. You stop being held hostage by your own nostalgia or ego and start seeing your work for what it could become. So the next time you're stuck or something feels off, ask yourself, am I holding on to this because it's good or because I'm afraid to let it go? Be brave, take a step back, cut what needs cutting. And when you do, you'll find yourself creating work that's leaner, sharper, and more impactful. Remember, killing your darlings isn't about losing, it's about growing. It's about reclaiming your focus, your creative power, and your vision. The best creators aren't afraid to be ruthless when it matters, and that's where the magic happens, when you let go of the good to make space for the great. Number 3. Art by deadlines. Deadlines are like that one friend who keeps you honest. You know, the one who says, "Are you really going to wear that?" Or, "Maybe it's time to let go of that 10-year-old concert t-shirt." At first, they're annoying, but deep down, you know they're right. Deadlines, my friend, work the same way for creativity. They force us to stop overthinking, start making decisions, and most importantly, finish. That's the magic of art by deadlines. It's about using time constraints to create something bold, authentic, and uniquely yours. Now you might be thinking, wait, aren't deadlines the enemy of creativity? Doesn't real art need endless time to marinate? Nope, not really. We've all been there, spending weeks obsessing over tiny details, tweaking and retweaking, waiting for the elusive perfect moment. But perfection is a mirage. Deadlines, on the other hand, are real, tangible, and weirdly liberating. They give you permission to stop chasing perfection and start prioritizing progress. Imagine this. I once had to create a promotional video for a client, and I had 2 days. 2 days. My initial reaction? Pure panic. I mean, how could I possibly come up with something good in such a short time? But then I realized I didn't have time to second-guess myself. I couldn't afford to agonize over font choices or debate color schemes for hours. Instead, I trusted my instincts, made quick decisions, and went with ideas I might have otherwise overthought. The result? A video that the client loved, clean, impactful, and done on time. Why does this work? Because deadlines strip away the noise. When you know the clock is ticking, you stop fixating on the unimportant stuff. You focus on the core of what you're trying to say. Deadlines force clarity. They push you to be decisive, to trust your gut, and to let go of the endless what-ifs. Sure, it's uncomfortable at first, kind of like ripping off a band-aid. But once it's done, you realize how much lighter you feel. And here's the surprising part. Working within deadlines doesn't just make you more productive, it makes you more creative. Constraints are fuel for innovation. When you're limited on time, you find clever solutions, try unconventional ideas, and take risks you might not have considered otherwise. It's like cooking with whatever's left in the fridge. At first you think, I have nothing to work with. But then you whip up something unexpectedly amazing with what you've got. This isn't about rushing or cutting corners. It's about trusting that good art, real art, doesn't need endless time. It needs purpose, focus, and action. Deadlines give you that. They remind you that your work doesn't have to be flawless to be meaningful. And when you finish, you don't just feel accomplished, you feel free. So the next time you're staring at a blank page or stuck in an endless loop of almost there, set yourself a deadline. Make it non-negotiable. Embrace the pressure, the adrenaline, the messy, imperfect magic of creating on a clock. Because art by deadlines isn't about limitation, it's about liberation. It's about trusting yourself to deliver when it counts. And trust me, you will. Number 4. The audience puppeteer method. Imagine being able to guide your audience's emotions like a skilled puppeteer. It's not manipulation, it's connection. The audience puppeteer method is all about understanding human nature so well that you can craft experiences that resonate deeply. Sounds a little dramatic, doesn't it? But think about it. Every great storyteller, marketer, or artist does this. They know when to tug at your heartstrings, when to make you laugh, and when to leave you in awe. Now here's the twist. You can do it too, and it's not as hard as you think. You know that feeling when you're watching a movie and find yourself crying over a character who doesn't even exist. We've all been there. That's the power of emotional storytelling. The puppeteer method starts with recognizing that everyone in your audience is looking for a connection, even if they don't realize it. Whether you're writing, presenting, or creating, your goal isn't just to deliver information, it's to make them feel something. Here's the trick. You need to understand your audience's emotional rhythms. Think of it like music. There are moments for crescendos, soft melodies, and dramatic pauses. To be a great puppeteer, you first have to ask yourself, what is my audience craving right now? Is it hope, humor, a little jolt of surprise? Once you figure that out, you can start pulling the strings, not to control them, but to guide them toward an unforgettable experience. I'll share a moment from my own life. A few months ago, I gave a presentation to a group of skeptical co-workers. I could see it in their faces. They didn't want to be there. I had two options: power through my slides and hope for the best, or switch things up. So, I told a story. A funny, slightly self-deprecating story about a mistake I'd made in the past. Suddenly, they leaned in. I could feel the shift in the room. They weren't just listening anymore, they were engaged. By the time I got to my key points, they were nodding along. The why behind this is simple. People respond to authenticity and relatability. When you show them you understand their struggles or their joys, they trust you. And trust is the golden thread that connects the puppeteer to their audience. But here's the catch. You have to be willing to give a little of yourself first. Share a piece of your humanity, and they'll respond with theirs. This method isn't about being perfect. In fact, it's often in the imperfections, the little stumbles, the honest moments, that your audience feels most connected to you. It's about understanding that people don't just want to consume, they want to feel seen, understood, and inspired. So the next time you're creating something for an audience, think about the strings you want to pull. Don't just focus on what you want to say. Focus on what they need to hear, feel, or experience. When you approach it like this, you're not just delivering a message, you're creating a moment. And those moments? They're unforgettable. At the heart of it, the audience puppeteer method isn't about control. It's about collaboration. It's about stepping into your audience's world and inviting them into yours. It's about weaving a story, a presentation, or an experience that leaves them thinking, that was for me. That's not just skill, that's art. Number 5, steal like a pragmatist. Steal like a pragmatist might sound bold, maybe even a little scandalous, but hear me out. We're not talking about plagiarism or theft in the traditional sense. No, this is about borrowing brilliance with purpose and intention. It's about recognizing that nothing in this world is truly original, and that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's what makes creativity thrive. Picasso once said, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." Pragmatists take this one step further. They steal, adapt, and make it their own. Think about it. How often have you stared at a blank screen or a daunting project, feeling the pressure to pull something entirely new out of thin air? It's overwhelming, right? We've all been there. The truth is, innovation isn't about reinventing the wheel. It's about taking what's already out there and giving it a fresh spin. Pragmatists know this. They look at what works, analyze why it works, and then use it as a foundation to build something uniquely theirs. Now, you might be thinking, but isn't that cheating? Not at all. It's smart. Look at the world around you. Movies, music, architecture, even technology, all of it is built on the shoulders of what came before. Every great filmmaker was once inspired by another director. Every songwriter has their influences. Even the most groundbreaking inventions often start as improvements on existing ideas. The key is in how you transform what you take. Let me give you a real-life example. A few years ago, I was tasked with creating a pitch for a client. I was stuck, completely out of ideas. Then I remembered a brilliant ad campaign I'd seen a while back. Instead of copying it outright, I dissected it. What made it so compelling? The humor, the storytelling, the visuals. I took those elements, stripped them down, and reassembled them in a way that fit my project. The result? A pitch that not only impressed the client, but also felt entirely fresh. Here's why this works. When you steal like a pragmatist, you're not just copying, you're learning. You're breaking down concepts to their core and understanding their essence. It's like learning the recipe for a dish and then adding your own twist. This approach doesn't just make your work better, it makes you better. You start to see patterns, recognize brilliance, and develop a deeper understanding of your craft. And let's not ignore the emotional empowerment this brings. There's a certain freedom in knowing you don't have to start from scratch. You're not less creative for borrowing ideas, you're resourceful. This mindset shifts the narrative from "I'm not original enough" to "I'm smart enough to build on greatness." It's about reclaiming your creative confidence. So here's the takeaway. Don't be afraid to steal like a pragmatist. Take what inspires you, break it apart, and put it back together in a way that's undeniably yours. This isn't about shortcuts or laziness. It's about working smarter, not harder. Remember, every masterpiece started somewhere. Yours will too. Embrace the process, trust your instincts, and make it your own. That's not stealing, that's artistry. Number 6. Creativity under constraints. Creativity thrives under constraints. That might sound counterintuitive, even frustrating, but stick with me. We often think of creativity as this boundless, free-flowing force, an open field where anything is possible. But here's the twist. When you can do anything, it can feel paralyzing. Where do you start? What do you prioritize? Too much freedom can sometimes leave you stuck in a loop of indecision. It's the constraints, those pesky deadlines, limited resources, or specific guidelines that act as the spark to light the fire. You know the feeling, right? That moment when you have all the time in the world to finish a project, but somehow nothing gets done. Or when you sit down to brainstorm with no clear direction and end up staring at a blank page. We've all been there. Now think back to the times when you had to pull something together at the last minute, or when your options were so limited you had no choice but to get creative. Somehow those constraints pushed you to think faster, smarter, and more resourcefully. The beauty of constraints lies in their ability to force focus. When you know you only have 10 minutes to make a decision, or when you can only use the tools you have on hand, your brain goes into problem-solving mode. It stops wandering and starts building. This isn't about doing less, it's about doing better with what you have. Constraints aren't roadblocks, they're challenges. And challenges, they're what make us grow. Here's a personal example. A few years ago, I was tasked with designing a campaign on a shoestring budget. At first, I panicked. How could I deliver something impactful without the luxury of endless resources? But then, I shifted my mindset. Instead of focusing on what I didn't have, I zeroed in on what I did. A small but talented team, a simple idea, and just enough time to pull it off. By leaning into those constraints, we ended up creating one of the most effective campaigns I've ever worked on. Why? Because every choice was deliberate. There was no fluff, only what mattered. What makes this approach so powerful is that it rewires your perspective. Instead of seeing limitations as setbacks, you start seeing them as opportunities to innovate. It's not about doing everything, it's about doing the right things. Constraints give you permission to let go of perfectionism and focus on what truly works. They remind you that creativity isn't about having infinite possibilities. It's about making something extraordinary within the boundaries you're given. So the next time you feel boxed in, don't resist the constraints. Embrace them. Use them as a framework to focus your energy and push your creativity in unexpected directions. This isn't about settling, it's about thriving. Remember, it's not the lack of constraints that drives creativity, it's the way you rise to meet them. Number 7, monetize before mastery. You don't have to be an expert to start earning from your skills. There, I said it. We've all been told to perfect our craft first, to master every detail before daring to charge a penny. But what if I told you that waiting for mastery might actually hold you back? Yep, this is the idea of monetizing before mastery. And no, it's not about faking it until you make it. It's about recognizing that value isn't reserved for perfection. It's about progress, impact, and a willingness to show up. Now you might be thinking, but how can I charge people when I'm still learning? Trust me, I get it. That voice in your head saying, "You're not good enough yet," is loud. But here's the truth. Someone out there needs exactly what you can offer right now. They're not looking for a world-class expert. They're looking for someone who can solve their problem, connect with them, and deliver results, however small or simple those results might seem to you. We've all been there, waiting to feel ready, only to realize that ready never really comes. Here's why this approach works. First, it forces you into real-world application, which is the fastest way to learn. When you start offering your services, you're not just theorizing, you're testing, adapting and improving. Second, you're gaining invaluable feedback. Clients, whether they're paying a little or a lot, will teach you more than any self-paced course or endless practice session ever could. And third, you're building confidence. Each project completed, no matter how basic, chips away at that imposter syndrome and proves to you that you're capable. Let me tell you a quick story. When I first started freelancing, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew I wasn't the best in my field, but I saw an opportunity to help a small business with their content. They weren't expecting perfection, they just needed fresh ideas. So I pitched my services at a reasonable price, delivered what I could, and guess what? They were thrilled. That one project led to referrals, testimonials, and more gigs. Did I have a lot to learn? Absolutely. But by starting before I felt ready, I turned every project into a stepping stone toward mastery. This isn't about lowering standards or skipping steps. It's about embracing the messy, imperfect journey of growth. Monetizing before mastery doesn't mean overpromising or pretending to know it all. It means being honest about where you are, offering value within your current capabilities, and charging what feels fair. It's about showing up as a work in progress and owning it. So, if you're waiting for some magical moment when you'll feel completely qualified, stop. Start small, start humble, but just start. This is about breaking free from perfectionism and stepping into the real world, where value is created through action, not endless preparation. Remember, the path to mastery isn't linear, and it doesn't require you to be broke along the way. Number 8. Radical collaboration. What if I told you that the secret to unlocking your full potential, whether in your personal life or career, isn't about working harder or doing it all on your own? In fact, it might actually be about letting go of control and embracing something called radical collaboration. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Oh, collaboration, that's not exactly new advice. But trust me, there's a twist here that might surprise you, and it's powerful. You see, we've all been there. We've all tried to juggle everything ourselves, thinking that taking on more tasks means more control, more success. We've all had those days when it feels like if we don't do it all, nothing will get done right. It's easy to fall into that trap, right? You know the type. Taking on every role, managing all the moving parts, thinking that if we rely on anyone else, it'll all fall apart. But here's the truth. Trying to do everything yourself is a one-way ticket to burnout and ultimately failure. So, here's the game changer. Radical collaboration isn't just about working with others. It's about opening up, truly letting others into your process and trusting them with the hard stuff. It's the idea that the best results come from blending different perspectives, skills, and experiences to create something greater than the sum of its parts. And here's the kicker. It works better because we're not relying on one person's limited viewpoint. When you embrace radical collaboration, you're creating a network of innovation. Think about it. By trusting others, you're not losing control. You're multiplying your strengths. I can tell you firsthand that this shift isn't just a theoretical idea. A while back, I was stuck in a project where I had taken on way too much. Deadlines were looming, the stress was mounting, and I was basically on autopilot, trying to push through. But then, a colleague suggested we bring in more people to help brainstorm and divide the tasks. I was hesitant at first, afraid that delegating would mean I'd lose my grip on the project. But I let go, and I'm so glad I did. Not only did the final product improve, but the process became enjoyable again. That experience made me realize this isn't just about getting things done. It's about creating with others, learning and growing together. It was a game changer. Now, here's the real benefit for you. Radical collaboration doesn't just give you the resources you need to succeed, it gives you emotional freedom. It frees you from the pressure of perfection, and it creates space for you to tap into your own creativity and strengths in a deeper way. It's about reclaiming your peace and stepping into your power, knowing that you don't have to do it all alone. This isn't about letting go of your independence. It's about realizing that true strength comes when we allow ourselves to be supported and lifted by others. So, as you move forward, remember, don't be afraid to lean on others. Don't hold back from reaching out for help, and don't be scared to open up and let new ideas flow. Radical collaboration is your ticket to growth, not just professionally, but emotionally and personally as well. By embracing it, you're not losing control. You're gaining the ability to create something far more powerful than you could on your own. And trust me, that's a win worth fighting for. Number 9, the anti-aesthetic approach. Perfection is overrated. There, I said it. In a world obsessed with aesthetics, perfectly curated Instagram feeds, flawlessly edited videos, and spotless living spaces, it's easy to feel like anything less than picture perfect isn't worth sharing. But what if the key to truly connecting, creating, and thriving was to let go of the obsession with how things look and embrace how they work instead? This is what I like to call the anti-aesthetic approach. And trust me, it's more freeing than you think. Now, you might be thinking, why would anyone want to reject aesthetics? Isn't beauty part of what makes things appealing? Sure, but here's the thing. When we prioritize form over function, we often lose sight of the purpose behind what we're doing. Think about how many ideas never see the light of day because we're stuck trying to make them look just right. How many projects do we abandon halfway because the end result doesn't match some impossible vision in our head? We've all been there, and it's exhausting. The anti-aesthetic approach flips this mindset on its head. Instead of obsessing over polish, we focus on the core. What's the message? What's the function? What's the value? It's about progress, not perfection. Getting the idea out there, messy edges and all. And ironically, this raw authenticity often resonates far more than something overly curated. People don't connect with perfection, they connect with honesty. Let me share a quick story. A while back, I started working on a project, a blog series actually. I had big plans, sleek designs, perfect visuals, catchy taglines. But you know what? I got so caught up in making it look perfect that I didn't publish a single post for months. Frustrated, I decided to strip it all down. No fancy layouts, no endless edits. I just wrote and hit publish. The feedback was overwhelming. People didn't care about the aesthetics. They cared about the stories, the insights, the rawness. That's when I realized the power of the anti-aesthetic approach. This isn't about rejecting beauty entirely. It's about reframing it. Beauty isn't just about what's visually appealing. It's about what's real, useful, and impactful. The perfect design or image might catch someone's eye, but it's the substance, the heart, that keeps them coming back. The anti-aesthetic approach isn't laziness. It's prioritization. It's knowing when to polish and when to let things be. By embracing this mindset, you're giving yourself permission to show up as you are, flaws and all. You're breaking free from the paralyzing grip of perfectionism and reclaiming your energy for what truly matters. This is about creating with purpose, connecting with intention, and finding beauty in the imperfect. So let's stop holding ourselves to impossible standards and start embracing the messy, brilliant process of doing, sharing, and growing. Because in the end, it's not about how polished it looks. It's about how much it matters. Number 10. Quantify creativity. Creativity often feels like this elusive, magical force, doesn't it? like something reserved for the chosen few who can pull genius ideas out of thin air. But what if I told you that creativity isn't magic, it's math? Wait, don't roll your eyes just yet. Hear me out. What if you could measure creativity, break it down, and make it as actionable as a step-by-step recipe? Sounds counterintuitive, I know, but quantifying creativity might be the key to unlocking its full potential. Now, you might be thinking, how can you possibly put numbers on something as abstract as creativity? And you're right. It's not about reducing creativity to cold, lifeless formulas. It's about recognizing that every brilliant idea, every groundbreaking solution is the result of patterns, inputs, and a process that you can actually track. Think about it. Writers count words, photographers count shots, coders track iterations. Creativity thrives when you give it structure to grow within. We've all been there, staring at a blank screen or piece of paper, waiting for inspiration to strike. And it doesn't. Why? Because creativity isn't about waiting, it's about working. Imagine setting yourself a simple goal. Come up with 5 ideas in 10 minutes. They don't have to be perfect. In fact, they can be terrible. But by putting a number on it, you're shifting your mindset from "I need one brilliant idea" to "let's see what happens when I push myself." Suddenly, creativity feels less intimidating and more like a game you can win. Let me share a quick story. A few years ago, I was working on a branding project with tight deadlines. The client wanted something fresh, bold, and completely out of the box. I was overwhelmed until I decided to quantify my approach. I made a list: 10 names, 5 color schemes, 3 logo concepts, all in 24 hours. Some of the ideas were laughable. One name sounded like a cereal brand, but a few stood out. By the end of the process, I had more than enough material to wow the client. The secret: numbers gave me momentum. Quantifying creativity isn't about limiting it, it's about giving it direction. It's about taking the pressure off perfection and focusing on productivity. When you measure creativity, you create opportunities for feedback, refinement, and growth. And here's the kicker: those mediocre ideas you jot down along the way, they're often the stepping stones to your best work. This approach doesn't just benefit your projects, it transforms how you see yourself. You start realizing that creativity isn't some fleeting gift you hope to catch on a good day. It's a skill you can build, a muscle you can strengthen, and yes, a process you can measure. This is about reclaiming your creative confidence, your ability to make progress, and your belief in the power of iteration. So, the next time you're stuck, don't wait for inspiration to show up uninvited. Set a goal, define some numbers, and let creativity work within those boundaries. Because the beauty of quantifying creativity is that it reminds you of one simple truth: you're capable of so much more than you think. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video gave you some fresh insights into how pragmatism can truly unlock your creative potential. If you found this helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really means a lot and helps others find this content too. And if you want to dive deeper into topics like this, make sure to subscribe so you never miss out on new videos. If you know someone who's been struggling with their creative process, share this video with them. They might just find the shift they need. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Drop a comment below and share your own experiences or challenges when it comes to balancing creativity with action. Let's start a conversation and support each other on this creative journey. Remember, it's not about waiting for the perfect idea, it's about making progress, one step at a time. You've got this, and I'll see you in the next video.